When we find a best friend, we know that person will always be there. We pick our friends. Sometimes we're not sure. We just want to get to know that person. But we don't expect that person to change to be our friend. And yet, when we get into relationships, often we get into relationships with people we wouldn't even be friends with, which I find very unique in our society today. We don't hold them to the same criteria as we would picking a best friend. We often first start with looks. They look good. That's all we need. No, it's not. We know we need more than that. And it's not the external look that makes someone beautiful to us. It's how they make us feel. Our friends make us feel good, and we make our friends feel good. So when you're in a partnership, how come so quickly that person no longer makes you feel good? How come often we turn on them and they don't feel good around us either? Why is that? Take a step back and look at how you've picked your partner. What first attracted you? Probably physical attraction. If you look at them objectively, is it someone you would have picked as your best friend? Is it someone you want to hang out with, want to spend your time with? That should be the criteria. We do take marriage too lightly. We really, really do. And we don't think about who we're picking. We often just think it's going to work itself out. And then we expect them to change. We don't expect our friends to change, but we know life will change us here and there. We know our life situation will change, and the people who we are will definitely change and evolve. We often assume our partners will change into what we want them to. So we start dating them and even possibly marry them on that premise. Not who they actually are, but who we think they will become. That sets us up for failure immediately. Because then when they don't start changing the way we think they should, and this goes for men and women, we decide we're going to try and make them change. Make them see that they're wrong. Then it becomes the power struggle once again. I am right, you are wrong. The other person thinking the same thing. And then we try and prove our points to each other. Well, now we're definitely not in the same corner, let alone on the same team, let alone being best friends. So you can see how marriage quickly begins to fail. And marriage is more of a mindset than that piece of paper. Marriage is a partnership. And people can be married in their hearts and minds without that piece of paper. It's who are you willing to be in your relationship? No, you should not expect your partner to change. That is not your right. You are not their parent, and you do not know what's best for them. I know society tells us different. I see it all the time, where the husband feels he should be controlling the wife's behavior. The woman feels she should be telling him what to do. But at the same time, I don't see the credit being given of what they're doing. And then if children come into play, I often see one parent kind of left on the sidelines, being expected to rise to the occasion, but yet really not knowing how. None of us know how to parent. None of us do. Babies don't come with a manual. And if we treated each other like best friends, we would allow each other this learning process. We would not decide we are the right ones, the best ones to do this. And men, I know you don't carry that baby for 10 months. I know you don't. And it's very hard to all of a sudden, right away, have a child. So my one thought to you, not telling you what to do, but just to think about it, is for those of you out there who want children in your relationships, Just think about changing your life to match your partner's life when she becomes pregnant. Woman's life changes immediately. Her life has to change. She is that baby's incubator, and she's going to do everything in her power most of the time to take care of that. Now, if she is your best friend, wouldn't you want to stand by her in that? Our society, for some reason, has just assumed that men can live a partially single life when their wife is pregnant, that her life stops and changes, but their life doesn't begin until the baby's born. And this is something our society needs to ponder. It's something that our society needs to realize is when one of us is pregnant, we're both pregnant. And that if she needs to change her lifestyle, a supportive friend would change theirs too. Why? Because life has changed forever once a child comes into your life. Whether you end up staying together or not, you will still both be parents of that child for the rest of your lives. It's something to think about. Because meanwhile, we're not communicating about so many things. I see so much resentment bred right away between men and women over running a household, over parenting. We don't act like adults half the time. I see the marriage certificate used as permission to verbally abuse the other one, cut them down, treat them like they're dumb. Are you forgetting that you picked that person? Well, if he or she knew, they wouldn't do that. But this is who they are. How come we're always trying to change what we've picked? What would happen if you looked at your partner every single day, like the first time? If you're living moment to moment, you don't use words like, well, you always do this and you always did that. As soon as something becomes linear, we seem to not be grateful for it anymore. Oh, it's so mundane. We do the same thing over and over again. Life is a bunch of those mundane moments all strung together, but each moment is special in its own way if you let it be. We don't give our partners credit for that. Unfortunately, we start to get selfish. We start to think that our needs are more important than our partners instead of equal. The one thing we all want in life is to watch someone's face light up when we walk in a room. Become that first. Allow your own face to light up every time you see your partner. You can only manage your own behavior. You can only choose your reactions. Well, he or she comes home and they're always in a snit and don't want to do anything. Are you, though, even saying hi when they walk through the door? Are you excited to see them when they walk through the door? Are you excited to see them when you walk through the door? It feels good when somebody's face lights up. It feels good. And that's why we like our friends, because we always treat our friends like that. We're always excited to see our friends. Yeah, but I had a crappy day. Right. And if that person was your best friend that you were meeting for supper, you would be excited. Yes, you might complain about your day for a little bit of time, but it wouldn't become the totality of your evening. You wouldn't let it affect that short time that you have with your best friend that day. And we forget in our relationships that we have a very short time together every day because life is now busy. So if you're able to look at that person who you've chosen to be with in life right now and think, this is fabulous every second of every day, you will find that you stop taking responsibility for wanting to change that person. Also, if you start saying things like, could you help me? We forget sometimes if we're the ones staying home But sometimes the other person in our partnership doesn't know what we expect of them. And sometimes it's just easier for them to let us run our little schedules because they don't want to cause a problem. Unfortunately for the other partner, sometimes they assume that the other person just doesn't want to help. Again, assume. If I say today, I just can't vacuum, could you help me? Right there I'm saying if I lived by myself, I would be the one vacuuming. So, because I need help today, I will ask. As soon as the other partner knows how the household runs, you will find that they feel more empowered to just do things. If you're, though, always saying, how come you didn't vacuum? How come you didn't do this? How come you didn't do that? That reflects back to parenting and telling the other person what to do and expecting them to change. And of course, as we all know, that doesn't work. We don't like being told what to do. We're adults. Then some of us say to ourselves, well, then they should just do it if they didn't want me telling them. But remember, that relates back to sometimes the person doesn't know what needs doing. And yes, I've heard many a partner say, well, they can see that needs cleaning. Women can be very territorial, and some men as well. And sometimes it's easier to leave the territory to the one person than to enter. Yes, I said easier. I'm watching relationships in the year 2010 in our society, and I don't see them as easy. I see very few that I personally would want to be in. I see there being a lot of issues in communication. I see everyone expecting everyone else to change, but not looking at what they're being in the partnership. And then there's another side of it. I hear a lot of women and men say, but I did everything and it still didn't work out. We'll talk about that in a second.